Warning: the following podcast is utter nonsense and may cause agoraphobia, kleptomania, insomnia, and oppositional defiance disorder. We are required by law to provide you with this disclaimer for hazardous materials.
Welcome back to Hazardous Materials, last week's comics this week, at home, quarantine edition, episode 3. My name is Casey Johnson. With me, as always,
Gideon Gonzalez. And we'll lead off with some news today and then go into our main meat of our episode, which is a discussion of Runaways Volume 1 by Brian K. Vaughan, Adrian Alfona, and Takeshi Miyazawa, covering the first 18 issues of the Teen Heroes. So I guess, Casey, I'll give you the first news tidbit.
All right. Well, this one just came in today, and to the surprise of literally no one, San Antonio Comic-Con has announced its cancellation.
San Antonio Comic-Con?
I'm being wishful thinking. San Diego Comic-Con is canceled.
There we go.
Of course, I'm sure to losing a crap load of money in the toe of it. I can't even begin to think of what financial hazard the lack or the loss of this con to that city really is. I mean, I know San Diego's a big place, but I mean, man, San Diego Comic-Con is like the hub for the entertainment industry for the year.
Yeah,
So-
like a really big chunk of San Diego's economy comes from that one weekend.
So I wonder what that's going to say for all the projects and stuff that they're, thinking about, keeping close to their chest. I mean, are we going to get like a variety of these cool new releases between now and June?
I'm sure they'll do like some sort of digital convention thing and have all those releases come out as they would have, but now instead of being in Hall H, they'll be in the comfort of our homes.
And we'll be losing out on like cool trailers. Like I would love to see an Eternals trailer, and I bet you San Diego Comic-Con was going to be the place for it.
Yeah, I'll bet they will still release it. Like I think they will build a big digital hype for a big release for a lot of stuff. That's the other thing. That's so much marketing. Like that weekend you get inundated with trailers. It's like the biggest pop culture weekend in America. I'm like, there's no way they're not going to do anything with all that stuff because they've been preparing for that stuff. They've been preparing their panels and stuff for months at this point. So
I wonder if because San Diego Comic-Con got canceled, that's the reason we got the news drop about J.J. Abrams doing Justice League Dark for HBO Max.
which, yeah, that's another really big news item for today. And I'm not super jazzed about that. So,
well, let me see what I have to say about that. If we'd had this news bit drop, say, 2 years ago, I would have been super awesome. J.J. Abrams can do no wrong. Yay. And as far as I was concerned, I mean, I enjoyed Star Trek. I enjoyed Into Darkness.
You enjoyed Into Dark?
I enjoyed Beyond, which parts I didn't
Beyond
see.
is the best of that trilogy, and because JJ had nothing to do with it. Justin Lin, Simon Pegg joined.
And of course, I enjoyed his other projects. Obviously, I enjoyed Alias. I enjoyed The Force Awakens. I did not enjoy Rise of Skywalker as much as I wanted to. And there are parts of the new Star Trek thing I don't really enjoy that much anymore.
Here's the two big things J.J. Abrams does. He does bright, shiny visuals, and he does a lot of nostalgia mining. Neither of these things really line up with Justice League Dark as a project. These are not particularly well-known characters that you can mine nostalgia from the 60s to the 80s. These are not, as they should be, a dark, grungy story, which I don't really see him as capable of telling. I think it's a bad match. I think it's almost as ill-advised as slapping him on a Shining show, which is the other part of that announcement. Is that HBO's doing Overlook, which my biggest problem with Dr. Sleep was when in the last 30 minutes it turned into The Shining the Ride. And I feel like having the TV show is just going to be that times 10, which I'm completely
I didn't get a chance to watch Dr. Sleep, but I did see a still where the main character was sitting in the bar talking to the bartender. And it's like, wow, that's clearly the Overlook Hotel's bar. So
Dr. Sleep is okay, but when it's going, hey, remember The Shining? Hey, remember The Shining? Hey, remember Shining? It gets hard to like. It's just like, okay, I get it. Tell your story.
Member berries.
Exactly. And hey, J.J. Abrams loves those member berries. He loves being like, hey, you remember Palpatine?
And you and I are pretty much of the same opinion. We don't know if he can do this.
Yeah, I'm not super jazzed about it. When there was the possibility of him doing like a Superman movie, I was like, okay, let him do the first one and don't let him touch it again, because when he does a second part of a franchise, it never goes well. But
he probably would have been better suited for Superman Returns, which was supposed to be a sequel nostalgically from Superman 2.
Yeah, honestly, he could have done a really fun, zippy, super nostalgia sequel, and I would have been very happy with it. And a lot more happy with what we got with Superman Returns.
Yeah, because Superman Returns was a yawn fest. Yeah. We didn't need Luthor. We didn't need another land grab storyline. Just give me some brainiacs and some big robots, some big flashy explosions, and throw that damn John Williams thing. Make me feel like a child again. Roll credits.
Casey is a discerning audience member. Very high.
I know what I like. Play the strings.
So moving
along.
We do have confirmation. Sam Raimi is going to direct Doctor Strange 2, and I'm very excited for that. I was very happy when he was rumored, and over the moon that he's confirmed.
Yeah, he got confirmed from himself.
As someone who didn't like the first Doctor Strange movie, I'm much more excited about the second one.
Oh, I love Doctor Strange.
It's boring. Didn't care for it.
It's no Thor Dark World.
It's not Thor Dark World. The movie has the exact same plot as the Green Lantern movie. Beat for beat, it's the same movie. But that's neither here nor there. I'm not gonna go off on the Green Lantern movie because restraint. But that said, speaking of DC Comics.
Speaking of.
Exactly. Let's transition. DC announced that they have embraced alternative distributors from Diamond, who have had a stranglehold on the industry since the 90s. So they're looking to get books out April 28th, I think, was the date they were targeting. And then Diamond said that they're going to reopen in mid-May. I'm not sure how 100% this is going to happen.
I wonder if that's Diamond responding to DC. You know, now that DC's got a plan and they're out with it. Mm-hmm. I wonder if that forced Diamond's hand, either by outing their plan or even making a plan to begin with.
Yeah, it is interesting. I have a lot of questions.
Now, Marvel went through their own distribution, 20 years ago?
Yeah, right before they went bankrupt. No, they have not. That was one of the big things they go bankrupt, is that they bought a bunch of different smaller companies like Toy Biz. I don't remember what the distribution company was. I think they bought like Topps or someone. They bought some card companies so they could print their own cards.
Oh, yeah.
So, yeah. Wow. Trying to do everything in-house was one of the big factors that bankrupted them, alongside, obviously the comics crash. But there has not been any other comics distributors besides Diamond for a good 22 years at this point. I think
that must have sucked for Marvel having to come back to Diamond with their tail between their legs.
Yep. And then in the meantime, Diamond, when everything else crashed, Diamond cannibalized, I think it was Capital City Comics was one. I don't remember the other one. But there was 3 or 4 distributors at that time.
I remember that. I remember when if you wanted to pre-order stuff, you got 3 big books. You know, it's like, oh, hey, here's the book for the month.
Now we've got the previews in one slim volume.
Wow. Oh God, I remember previews being super thick, and that's how I'd find out about HeroClix coming out in 3 months or something like that.
Yeah, that 3 months projection.
So I think that pretty much wraps up what we've got as far as news. Universal got the Green Hornet thing back, so
yeah,
let's see what happens with that.
I like the last Green Hornet movie. I thought it was fun, but it's not a character that I'm particularly chomping at the bit, you know?
I definitely find myself defending Seth Rogen's Green Hornet to my friends because I enjoyed that movie.
It's a good time.
It was a good time. Well, a few movies I actually watched in 3D. That's a good question. Gideon, do you watch your 3D movies? Do you look for the 2D showings?
I just do 2D. I don't think like outside of Avatar, I don't think I've ever seen a 3D movie that's worth the extra $5.
Same. I tried Green Hornet, and I was like, cool. I mean, that effect where they were shooting through a door looked really cool in 3D. And ever since then, I've always been looking for the 2D.
Actually, I did see one movie the past couple years in 3D. I saw Doctor Strange in 3D. And I didn't like the movie. I liked the visuals. And I was like, I'm seeing this movie as it's meant to be seen. And it still ain't clicking for me.
I can't believe.
It's pretty cool when these little fingers turn into smaller fingers.
But Doctor Strange is so cool. It's so retro. It's so, I even safe to say Ditko-esque, even though I'm not a big fan of his. But I mean, I love the orbs, the connected orbs that they would always use when they're looking at other dimensions. I love the way they did Dormammu. I love the fact that they looped Dormammu into a time loop, and that's how they beat him.
That was a fun solution. I'm not going to argue about Doctor Strange with you, though, right now, because...
Yes, you are.
That'll be a whole episode in and of itself.
All right, so I guess we're going to move on to our next bit of stuff, but not before we give ourselves a little break, and we'll be right back.
And we're back, and we are doing a deep dive into Runaways Volume 1, Issues 1 through 18, which, if you're keeping track at home, does cover the entire first run of the series. It's written by Brian K. Vaughan with art by Adrian Alfona and Takeshi Miyazawa. And Casey has read this book before and loved it. I had not, and I really dug it. It's a really fun little book.
Now, if you haven't read Runaways, we're going to be getting into this pretty deep as far as even spoilers.
Yeah.
And this is one of those books that you do have to throw up a spoiler warning for, because there's a mystery aspect of it that really doesn't get revealed until like the third act of the entire series.
Yeah, it's like issue like 15 or 16. It's pretty close to the end.
And it's great. When it happened, when the thing happened and I was reading, I was like, oh, fuck. You know, I was like, this is great.
Yeah, it is. It is a good, shocking twist. So the first act of the book it's pretty solid origin stuff. It sets up our cast. So you've got Alex Wilder, who is a master strategist. You've got Carolina Dean, who is an alien and can turn into a flying rainbow, essentially. And she can do energy blasts and stuff. You've got Chase Stein, who is one of my favorites. I love this goofy guy. He's kind of the dumb jock of the group, and he's got these Fistigons, which they insist on calling it the most powerful gauntlets on Earth without really going into detail about what it is exactly
they're
they
pretty
do.
vague on what's going on there.
They kind of like, for intents and purposes of the books, they're basically like he can do flame constructs, like he can make nets out of fire and stuff. But I love they're just he has the most powerful gauntlets on Earth without any explanation.
I forgot what Gertie's last name was.
Yorks.
Yorks. Okay, so the Yorks are the futuristic steampunk sci-fi people, which from what I understand, they're actually from the future.
Yeah, they're from the future. They can time travel. And because of that time travel, they picked up their daughter, a raptor, who is psychically linked to her.
Oh, sorry, I didn't even walk all over you. I was just going to talk about the fact that this raptor is named Old Lace, because when they go and do their names, she was like, I want to be called Arsenic and Old Lace. And like, Chase is like, what the hell is that? And she's like, watch a movie before 1985.
One of the things I thought was kind of funny is Runaways as a book is constantly marketed as like, oh, it's like no costumes, no code names, but they are very insistent on those code names in this first run. Like right here on the copy of the hardcover I have right in front of me. Sans traditional superhero costumes or code names, and yet we've got Carolina's Lucy in the Sky. I don't think Alex gets a code name, but Gertrude's Old Lace, or is Arsenic and Old Lace. Chase Stein is Talkback, I think was his name.
Yeah, Talkback, or I want to be called Neo. Can't be called Neo.
Got to be original. Going on with the rest of the cast, Nico Minoru is a witch of sorts. It's a little hard to explain. Her gimmick is she's got a thing called the Staff of One, which is tied to her family, and essentially she has to bleed for it to come out. So usually
That
fights
directly out of her chest.
Yeah, so it's this big old staff just shook, which comes up very well in one of my favorite combat scenes of the book. Her code name is Sister Grimm, and then the last member of the party is Molly Hayes, who is the youngest member, is adorable, and uses the name Princess Powerful. She is a mutant with super strength, but in limited bursts, and completely exhausts her whenever she uses their super strength.
They wanted to call her Bruiser. She's like, no, I want to be Princess Powerful. So, yeah, she's got super strength, but like the moment she exerts it, she just loses all of her gas and practically has to take a nap almost immediately. So she's kind of like a was it a brass cannon? Is that the term, or is it just
glass cannon?
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. So
she is what we kids call a relatable character, because I also need to take a nap whenever I do anything. So the first arc of the book gives you the setup of they are the kids of some very famous philanthropists, very wealthy folks who once a year meet up, and all the kids have to hang out with each other while their parents do some sort of fundraising event. But here's the twist. It's actually a ritual sacrifice, and all the kids see it. And now they have to deal with the knowledge that their parents actually suck. And not just actually suck. Their parents are full-on supervillains. Some of them get costumes. Some of them don't. But that was one thing, because I'd seen the show before. I had watched the first couple seasons of Runaways. And one of the things that I didn't love about the show was that their parents aren't really supervillains. They were like, okay, like they're all evil.
They've been sucked into a pact of sorts.
Exactly. They were much more normal than I expected. And it's something I really liked about the book is that, like, oh, these guys have costumes and superpowers, and they're
right in the villain territory.
Yeah, but they chill out on the West Coast, so no one bothers them because there's not 100 superheroes packed onto one island.
Yeah, that was actually one thing that I found amusing, is when Alex Wilder, does the obvious thing. You see something like this, like, hey, I'm going to call the cops. And it's like, our parents are super villains, and they sacrifice this girl on a pact of power, and like the cop completely blows them off. And then later on tells his partner, it's like, yeah, weirdest thing, man. This kid's called me about this, blah, 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 blah. He doesn't realize it, but his partner is on the take from the Pride, which is the name of all the adults in their thing. To kind of have a rundown. Alec Wilder's parents are involved in organized crime. You've got the Yorks, obviously, the time travelers. The Hayes are mutants. The Minorus are magical. And what's the fifth one? I'm forgetting.
Let's say there's the Deans are aliens, and the Steins are mad scientists.
Are mad scientists, exactly. Which is hilarious because Chase is nowhere near half as smart, or at least,
and I think that's a big part.
So,
yeah, it's a big part of his charm. Is he's just this sweet, doofy guy who has incredibly powerful robot hands.
Right, and of course, later on in the series, like I think in volume 5, they start harping on the fact that he's actually really smart. Well, I think he's like the chief mechanic of the Leapfrog, which
will come into play. Yeah,
you see the third act.
Yeah, the first act is mostly just the kids either finding out that they have powers, like in Nico or Carolina's case, or getting stuff from their parents, like Chase getting his Fistigons and Alex getting the Book of Jaborum to study.
Or how about the fact that Molly Hayes keeps talking to her parents as they're going off to this party? He goes, I really need to talk to you about my body. Like, whoa. Because she tells it to her dad, right? And her dad freezes, like, I'm not ready to have this conversation with my daughter because she's 11.
But the twist being, not that it's her period, that it's her mutant super strength coming into play.
Exactly.
That was a pretty fun little running gag for the first couple issues. And of course, the first arc ends with the Runaways becoming Runaways. They have a full-on fight with their parents and make their way out with all of their stolen gear. And the parents' retaliation plan, which this did pop up in the show, and I thought it was cool there, and I think it's cool here, is they frame the kids for the murder that they themselves committed, and then frame them for kidnapping Molly.
Right. And Molly has been largely in the dark about this whole development, because when they went and found out, because they were looking through one like a security glass mirror as their parents sacrificed this runaway. But they made Molly kind of ditch it because they noticed all their parents were wearing costumes, so they thought this was going to get like an Eyes Wide Shut kind of pervy. So it's like, no, we can't have Molly watch this. So she didn't see it. And she's largely out of most of the planning stage of them figuring out, we're dealing with villains. And that's the reason why they're able to use it. Hey, the first thing is like, you need to come to this house and deal with what you saw with us, or we're going to kill Molly, which is a total bluff, because Molly's parents are right there. But that's when Molly gets completely like exposed to this. And she's like, oh no, there's no way these people could be villains and all this other stuff. And then Carolina's mom comes through the window and starts doing like alien blasto crap. And so Molly just socks her right out the window and into the pool. And it's like, okay, let's get out of here. So that was cool.
Yeah. I like seeing Molly's growth in the book, and how like her punching Carolina's mom through the window is an all-time great moment for me. That was hysterical. And I really like seeing the kids grow as a family unit throughout too. I think they have the dynamics down really, really well for each of them.
And now the hook we obviously need to talk about, and this is the hook that we were talking about at the very beginning of this, is the fact that once Molly leaves with kids after they've had this small fight, the parents are recovering inside the Hayes' house, and Carolina's mom, she goes, I came too. I found this note. And it's basically, dear mom and dad, I love you. You clearly had reasons for doing whatever you did, but I'm still loyal to you. Unsigned. So there's a mole inside the Runaways.
And that's that mystery doesn't get paid off until like issue 16 or so. Like it's near the end of the book, but it's a very good reveal.
Yeah, and occasionally it comes up here and there, like the cop that's on the take for the Pride gets a phone call from the mole, which you obviously can't see. And since it's a comic book, you can't tell if it's male or female from the voice. They take advantage of that meeting, which I thought was cool. Now, when I was first reading this way back, I think this came out in 2006 or 2007. I think
earlier than that. This was like 2003. Yeah, this is early 2000s.
You're right. It is 2003. I'm thinking about the Wikipedia article. When I read this, it's like, oh crap, who the hell is that? And we should let you know that we're going to take this the full route. We are going to tell you who the mole is. Let you know this right now. If you want to bail on us, go read this, come back. This is what you need to do, because we're going to be talking about who the mole is. I thought it was Gertie. I originally thought it was Gertie because, the note seems smart enough that an intelligent person like Gertie would have written it. And she really hasn't said too much about her relationship with her parents. So it could be something. Yeah. And of course, there was also Old Lace, who's a complete X Factor. We have no idea how this dinosaur thing is really going to pan out. It could be part of this whole thing. It could be the dinosaur,
The dinosaur was the mole.
Yeah, right?
Where dino?
So we got
the
that.
Dinosaur man will have his revenge.
So we got that. At the very end of it, the kids decide that we're going to atone for our villainous parents being complete a-holes, and we're going to go out and help people. And then the first people they help, which of course we go into Act 2 of the books, and this is issue 7.
Yeah, it's issue, I think 7. Yeah, like 7 through 10. I think covers that kind of early vigilante stuff with Topher joining up.
Yeah, so they run into a teen called Topher during a convenience store robbery where him and his parents are basically holding this place up. And it's clear that his parents have abilities. So the Runaways are thinking, oh, great, this poor kid, who they find out later was forced by his parents to be there, is in the same situation they are. So we've been our first new member of the Runaways in Topher. This is actually my favorite part of the entire book.
It's a really fun little short bit. Yeah, you get to see the character dynamics come out. A lot of teen drama, which I'm always a sucker for.
Yeah, because Topher he gets into the group, he ingratiates himself into the group very quickly.
Mm-hmm.
Not more than a few pages pass by where he's already getting into the teen romance angle with not only Nico but also Carolina, which is surprising as you'll find out later in the book.
Carolina's figuring things out.
Yeah, she's sorting things out, but she's definitely not into Alex the way that Nico is.
Mm-hmm.
So, that whole thing it's a big old explosion because a bunch of the kids walk in right as Carolina's basically jumping Topher,
macking on old Topher.
Yeah, and it just gets big as hell. Then we're trying to find out what's going on with that. And drama.
And there's some great foreshadowing with Alex being a big old creep.
Yeah,
yeah. Alex doing the old Scooby-Doo looking through the painting eyes.
Yeah, well, you know what? I think the foreshadowing for Alex was actually even earlier than that when they were all talking about their nicknames, and he was the only one that says, "My name's Walder." Yeah, and then corrects himself and says, good. "Alex Walder."
That's good. Yeah, I didn't pick up on that.
Right then and there, Alex tells you he's the mole, which is yeah.
Which is like a little disappointed because Alex was definitely my favorite character, but I already had it spoiled for me, so I knew it going in that he was the mole. But still, was like, damn, Alex is so cool. Love this guy.
And then I loved Alex. Alex is my second favorite character.
Yeah, like one really big thing that I can't express enough about this book. All the characters are so fully realized. Like they are all incredibly believable teens and just as individuals. And like, obviously they've struck a chord with people because they've stuck around for 17 years now. They got their own TV show.
Yeah.
Pretty good.
And even though volumes 2, 3, and 4 were kind of volume 5 of Runaways is super good.
That's what I've heard. And I'm excited to get to it now that I'm reading Runaways.
Yeah, and volume 5 is actually what's going on right now. And then it's easily becoming the longest of the volumes. I think second only to volume 2. Volume 2 stretched out to almost 30 issues. But going back to the thing, in what is probably one of my favorite last page splashes is when most of the kids are in the woods with Topher. And I forget what they're doing, but they're in the woods and they're walking towards something. And Topher's just talking about his past. He goes, I need to explain something to you really quickly. Is the fact that I didn't get my powers from my parents. My parents got their powers from me. And he reveals that he's a vampire. Big old vampire fangs. Showing
Buffy
that
theme starts playing.
Yeah, Topher is not a good person.
No. His parents are his 2 minions who he recently turned into vampires.
Yeah, Topher is a complete bastard, and he wants to turn some of these kids.
And that my favorite visual that I talked about earlier is he bites Nico, and as soon as blood is drawn, the staff of one rockets out of her chest through his chest.
Yes.
So good. Oh my God, I lost my mind at that scene.
And the 2 people he fights are both bad news bears for him.
Yeah, because he bites Carolina, who is like kind of like Kryptonian, in that she's powered by sunlight. So he takes a bite out of her and just boom.
So he bites her. He goes, "Oh my God, your blood is like sunlight." I'm like, cool. And then Topher
explodes. Yeah, there's. This issue has both of my favorite images from the series. Both are so good.
I really enjoy the Hulu series for Runaways. They took some creative license with some things, they actually took one creative license that they quickly fixed in the later seasons, which I'm really glad about. In the TV show, they talk about the Minorus, who are clearly magic-based villains in this comic, and they turn them into tech heroes.
Yeah,
and Staff of One is like this big remote control thing, you know? It's later when they get into season 2, the last part, where they reveal that it is actually indeed magic, and they've been hiding it under the cloak of it being technology. It's like, good.
Yeah, no kidding. One of my big pet peeves is when magic stuff gets made into tech.
Yeah. And I was a little let down by that. There was some extra elements in the TV series I thought added a lot of nuance into the show.
I thought the parents were really well done on the show.
Yeah, and Nico's sister, the loss of Nico's sister, I thought was great. And I'm glad that actually got turned into a bigger hook that I did not anticipate. Now, as of course Topher explodes, we get a little guest star, which this is the same guest star that actually appears in the show, which is Cloak and Dagger. Cloak and Dagger have actually been approached by the detective that's on the payroll from the Pride. He's basically just throwing these heroes at them.
Yeah, they mentioned that he gave him the call and doing like, hey, who else to capture teen vigilantes but teen vigilantes? And
no, go ahead.
And it's a plan that kind of works surprisingly well. The Runaways get pretty easily trounced by Cloak and Dagger, because Cloak and Dagger have been doing this in real life since the 80s. In comic world, then probably like 5 years. We're doing the good old the Claremontian 5 years in the real world equals like 1 year in comics.
And whoever was drawing them obviously wanted to radically desexualize Dagger's outfit, and I think they did a pretty good job of it.
Yeah, they add a little kind of seal on her giant chest window that makes a knife, which, it's not a great costume, but one that is weirdly stuck around.
Yeah, strangely enough, and it's not like this super tight bodysuit like it usually is. You know, if they do a behind shot where you see Cloak and you see Dagger, and Dagger does not have comic girl butt, which I thought was refreshing.
Yeah, I mean, it's still like the window still goes beyond her navel. It's not exactly a hyper conservative outfit, but it's slightly more believable than her traditional look. But one costume I will super go to bat for in this, Molly's adorable homemade costume with a little security t-shirt and kitchen gloves. It's so cute. I love it.
Yes.
I wish she wore it throughout.
Grimm outfit. I really like the Sister Grimm outfit. I've always liked Nico. Nico has always been my favorite. And I was really glad when she popped up in Avengers Academy and Avengers Arena.
Yeah. I'd say she is. I think Nico's far and away probably the Runaway with the most staying power. Like, she pops up on a bunch of stuff all the time.
She's currently in Strange Academy.
Yeah. Her and like every other Magic character. Well, we'll see whenever Strange Academy comes back how much of a role she'll play.
Yeah.
But yeah, they do their the traditional hero team up of they both fight. Molly tears Cloak's cloak off, which you shouldn't be able to do. And so that traps all of their friends in the Dark Force dimension, which is essentially hell in the pages of this book. They get kidnapped by demons for a brief period of time until Dagger overloads Cloak and basically resets his body, and he's able to spew him back out.
And of course, in proper comic book terms, the fight has quickly gone into an explanation of, we're not the bad guys. You're not. But we were sent here by such and such. Well, you got sent here under false pretenses. Well,
we know the Avengers. We'll go home and call them.
If we can.
Yeah. But of course, the Pride catches them before they can leave and wipes their memories using magic and mutant powers and alien rainbows and whatnot. And the Pride and their very fun nebulous powers.
Yeah, especially the mutants. I mean, you don't really know what they do, but apparently this married couple of mutants have the exact same powers. They actually explain that in Volume 5.
Okay.
And it's just as incestuous as you think it is.
Oh, great. Just what the mutant community needed.
Yeah, no kidding. But yeah, this actually opens and closes the door as we sprint to the finish line. That is Act 3.
Yeah, a good solid 6-issue arc that's based mostly answering questions. Like it shows how the Pride got together. It shows in the form of Wilder reading the Book of Jaborum after he's translated it throughout the series. And the Jaborum are 6-digited giants. They're an ancient race that promises the Pride 6 slots in their new world order to compete over. And there are 12 of them. And the Pride's master plan becomes, hey, only half of us could get in. But what if we all each had a kid and we could guarantee our kids would get in? Which is a bold bargaining move to take on ancient beings that imbued you with super luck and power. But
yeah, and these things are pretty big. It's my understanding that these things are based off of some level of ancient Judeo-Christian monsters.
Yeah. Sister Grimm has a little line about it. I'm not going to go dig for it, but she was the one. Like I read a lot of like mythology books and monster books because Jaborum are a deep pull.
Yeah. Now we were originally going to do 1 through 12 of this. Mm-hmm. So when I went back, I basically went in the first 12 issues, and I told Gideon, "Hey, this goes to 18. Maybe we can do the rest of the issues if we've got the time or whatever." So I didn't reread the last 6 issues, so I'm a little fuzzy on it, except for the last act.
Well, It's pretty easy to run through. There's that. They fight their parents. Their hideaway gets destroyed in a big old fight.
Their buried mansion. Yeah.
They go to the Pride's secret underwater lair. Alex and Nico smooch. They fight a cool rock monster. And then the big reveal happens.
The Jaborum.
Yes.
Oh,
before that.
The mole.
Exactly. The mole is none other than Alex, which we discussed before. But he goes into his intricate master plan and was like, yeah, I knew our parents were evil like a year before we accidentally stumbled upon him. This has all been like a calculated move on my part for y'all to get your parents' gifts and abilities and whatnot. So Alex enters the final act of the book with the Staff of One, with Old Lace under his control, and with the Fistigons, and also Chase's X-ray goggles, because you got to complete the look.
Yeah, Chase's X-ray goggles, who, upon putting them on, looks at the girls in the thing, and it's your typical 80s movie kind of X-ray. It's like, oh, hey, look, they're in their underwear.
A scene which I appreciated got flipped in the show for Gert to use it on Chase. I thought that was really cute.
Yeah.
It was a good character moment for old Gert.
There was another thing that was going to happen. The Hayes were supposed to give Gertie a ring, and that never happened. So all the kids were supposed to get stuff when they turned 18 or when their folks died. And during the course of doing all this, they started picking up their birthright pieces. Early, Chase picked up tech, which turned out to be the Fistigons. Gertie got her dinosaur. The only thing that was really an X factor, and I use that knowingly, is that the Hayes had no idea their daughter was a mutant.
Yeah. No, that was a fun little bit when they're like, wait a minute, we had her tested. Surprise, mutant stuff doesn't always work out like that.
Welcome to Mutants on Planet Earth.
Exactly. As surprising as a Guthrie child developing powers.
So that's what I understand this to be. And when Alex is revealed to be the villain of this whole thing, well, suppose the mole, I was stunned. You can think of all these other options, but not the leader.
Yeah, and even going in knowing, it's still an incredibly effective sequence. And when he lays out like how and why he did everything. You're like, oh, that makes sense. That works. That tracks.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it's, again, like a testament to Brian Vaughn's amazing character work he does with all of these characters. They all feel so real. Alex in particular, because again, like as leader of the team, he gets a ton of focus in the series. And so to have your focus character take the rug out from under you and be revealed, oh yeah, I'm actually the bad guy, gutsy move. One I applaud 17 years later.
Right now, what I'm a little fuzzy on is, what did Alex tell the Jaborum that caused them to react the way they did?
So he's got everyone defeated. Almost. They start fighting. Nico's able to rally everyone and they fight back, but he's holding him off at a standstill until Molly destroys the container holding the soul that the Pride is supposed to offer to the Jaborum. The Jaborum roll up. They're not happy and they're like, "Hey, where's the Pride? Why are they all like knocked out?" And Alex is like, "I'm talking for the Pride now." And they're like, "Okay, let me just vaporize him." Because Alex's plan, Alex's plan was to save his parents and Nico's parents and Nico.
Yeah.
And so he's like, I'm gonna pitch this to the Jaborum. They'll be cool with it. They were not. He gets vaporized. And then the kids all bounce while leave their parents to fight the Jaborum, which presumably doesn't go well for them. I'm not sure if the parents show up again. It's
my understanding that the parents also got vaporized because we don't see the parents ever again.
Okay. Good to know.
Yeah. Volumes 2, 3, 4, 5. No parents. I mean, you get to visit with Molly's grandmother, and she explains the parents thing with her, and you find out, okay, well, that's what's going on there. It turns out that Molly's grandmother is like this super advanced geneticist, and she's like genetically made all these fucking cats, and she basically genetically made Molly's parents. That's the reason why they had magic powers.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That's fun.
It was fun. So they had to fight the villain that is Grandma.
Did she get run over by a reindeer?
So it's a short fight. But all the cats attack, and I think the kids run off with one of the cats. So now they have like this genetically altered, super fantastical cat. Sailor Moon cat.
Everyone loves cats.
Yes.
Everyone loves Salem. 90s icon Salem.
Now, a little bit of postscript, honest, as we go into some more opinions. We find out later that Alex Wilder has been not killed, but he's been shunted off into a world much like the white hot room that Phoenix was in for a long time. It's basically just a white void, and he's in this white void.
He gets that Lovecraftian doom.
Yeah, so he's in this white void, and it turns out that from the white void, he's been altering certain things to save the kids, to save the Runaways. He still cares about them. So in certain situations where they're getting into crap, he's been subtly maneuvering it so the antagonists get screwed over. And then you don't really find out about that until like the end of I guess volume 3. And then you see Alex like looking through a scry of some sort in the white hot room. And then you realize, oh, Alex is alive and he's been helping them. Later on, somewhere between volume 4 and volume 5, Alex comes back to the real world. And he returns back to them. It's like, hey, listen, I know you don't trust me. I still stand by what I did. That's the fun part. He still stands by what he did because he felt like it was the only way to help everybody. He talks about the fact that what he was offering the Gaborum was still bullshit, and he had yet another plan to betray the Gaborum. Wherein
that tracks. That's in character. I like that.
Where he was actually saving all the kids.
I was introduced to Alex in a Power Man and Iron Fist arc from a couple years ago. That was when David Walker and Sanford Green were on the book, and he was actually showed up as a villain there, having freshly escaped the Jaborum and having weird Lovecraftian like tentacle chest powers. And that was a really fun little arc. And I was like, this seems like a cool character. He's like a chess master. He's clearly gone through some stuff, but I haven't read Runaway, so I don't know what his deal is.
Right
But
now, it's actually kind of cool because like one of the many reasons why Volume 5 is so great is they revisit a lot of the things that made the Runaways great. Revisiting Alex, he even rejoins for a while just because it's necessary for him to do so, but then he leaves. And Molly wants to go back to being a kid, so she wants to go back to school. Therefore, she runs away with Alex as he leaves. That's a storyline. The Gaborum have children of their own,
oh,
which show up and is like, "Hey, where are our parents? We expected there to be a world here to our liking. There is no world. We
I was
expected
promised a
food.
six-toed world.
Yes, there is no food. What do we do of this?" And so the kids basically get into a fight with them, and one of the Gaborum turns on the others and assists the kids, and they are defeated. And so now the Runaways is all the Runaways. Sometimes Alex
And a kid
and this
Gaborum.
and this kid Gaborum, who spends most of the book going, "I hunger, I hunger, please, I hunger," and they're stuffing food down his mouth, which isn't used for eating. So he just ends up sticking things in his mouth and just taking them out. At one point, he picks up a cat and sticks it in his mouth, removes the cat. "I don't know what to do with this," and they end up fighting this one villain. Most recently, who I don't know. Should we talk about Volume 5 as part of this?
I mean, you've talked quite a bit about Volume 5, so
We really have.
I want let's wrap things up.
Yeah.
This book 100% earned its reputation. Brian K. Vaughan is by now like a huge legend in comics, but this is one of his early like really big mainstream hits alongside like Why the Last Man. Ex Machina is another early hit of his, and this really kind of solidified him to not even outside of like mainstream comics people. Like this is one of those comics kind of like Sandman where you can just like see it in a normal bookstore.
Yeah, and he did consult quite a bit on the show, and it shows.
Adrian Alfona does amazing work establishing the characters early on. He's a phenomenal teen artist. I mean, he is not a teen, but he draws teens very well. As shown, he went and did the Kamala Khan Miss Marvel run. He was the artist for that for quite a while. And his fill-in artist there was also Takeshi Miyazawa, who I was a huge fan of from Spider-Man Loves Mary Jane, a really fun focus on a teen Mary Jane in high school. Really great little series from Sean McKeever.
Now, Marvel has put this into a hardback like what Gideon has, but you can also find this in digest form, a really rare form for Marvel to use. Not something they actually use very often. Much shorter books, but you can get like a nice stack of digests and just carve through the Runaways if you want to. It's kind of cool.
And it's also available digitally. It's all on Marvel Unlimited, which is a very good deal in these times. It's basically their entire catalog with like a few exceptions. Not everything has been scanned in, but pretty much anything from 2000 on is going to be in there, and most of like the classic Silver Age stuff as well.
Yeah, it's definitely something to subscribe to. With times being what they are, if you still want to devour comics the way we want to devour comics, Marvel stuff, Comixology is the way to go. Especially because they've archived a lot of the older books, so you can go into and just binge like you're doing your own little print Hulu.
Let's say the cheapest way to read 800 issues of Spider-Man.
Exactly.
Is that $10 a month? Knock it out.
So go out and, if you can, support your local comic book store. They need it more than anything. Reach out to them, try to find out how you can support them. I've seen a lot of stores are actually putting stuff up on social media with various ways that you can support them. We have a place down here called was it Knighthood? You know that night place over there on Blanco?
Yeah, they pretty quickly got shut down. They weren't supposed to be open.
Yeah, for a while they were doing curbside service, and they've since actually gone to social media, which has actually been very successful, and they've actually been able to sustain and actually pay their employees. And that goes back to what was it Danny Coates?
Donnie Cates.
Donnie Cates did for Dragon's Lair in Austin, where he paid for everybody's pull list. That's cool. So
Yeah.
Do what you can. We want to keep our habits, and we want to keep our houses of worship up and running. So that's, I think, the biggest message I want to tell everybody today.
Yeah. And Casey, you want to give them our normal plugs, and we can head out.
Yeah, we're still on Patreon. If you want to see our cool stuff, including our missing episode, our lost episode, I think, God, what was it? 7, 13, something like that. It was episode 5. That's right. It was an episode that we recorded, but the video got messed up on it. But it's an all audio, and it's definitely intact. We've definitely got our top 10 episodes that we did at the end of last year, which is still very popular. Our top 10 comics of the decade. Big fan.
Our number one episode.
Yeah, it's our number one episode. It's the one I always send to people when it's like, hey, why see our show in a way that isn't time sensitive? Here's the episode. Always go with this one. We're also on Twitter. We've also got we're also on the Gram, where we dump all of our images from the show onto. I've got my own personal project on Facebook at My Comic Book Facts. And I think that just about covers it.
We will see you guys next week with let's figure out what we want to read for next week.
Good point, because we're not going to be reading the last arc of Runaways.
I would say I read a book that you hadn't read, so I'm going to give you a choice between two.
Okay.
2 of my favorites of the decade. They're both on my list. Mr. Miracle by Tom King and Mitch Gerads, or The Flintstones by Mark Russell and Steve Pugh.
I'm going to go with Mr. Miracle.
Okay. Cool.
As interesting as the Flintstones are, because we have talked about it, I do actually really want to read Mr. Miracle.
Awesome. Then that's another 12-issue giant that we will devour next week. See you guys then.